first I want to expand on that prepping phase because that's where the bulk of the problems exist. We know the power of the book. We know why we need one. We know what it can do for you. But when you don't do that prepping phase, that's why your book sucks. So I'm going to tell you a story about one I'm working on right now. It is for a client. His name is Frank Young. Frank's name is a complete lie because he is not young. He's almost 82 years old. I'm going to meet with him later this week and ask him when he's changing his name to Frank Old. I think our relationship's good enough I can finally ask that question. But he's built an extraordinary life filled with some pretty crazy stories and some pretty interesting things. He grew up on the south side of Chicago, which, if you know the Chicago area, it is and was the bad side of Chicago. That's not where you really wanted to be. His dad was largely absent. His mom worked several jobs to support him and his sister. And what it boiled down to was Frank was on his own the majority of his childhood. He fell into the old adage of you get tough or you die. He played sports like most kids back in the 40s and 50s did. Baseball was life, but he was a little smaller than the other kids. So he carried a pocket full of rocks so he could throw punches and hit people with rocks when he was too small to put up a fair fight. He had a neighborhood bully named Eddie. They got in a fight one day. Frank took a baseball bat to Eddie's ankle, broke his ankle, and then tossed the bat on the ground and walked away from him. He started drinking at age 13. In his 20s, he was in a lot of bar fights. Some he remembers, some he does not. Some of them were organized. They fought for money. Some of them, he was getting beat up in alleys. He left home the day after he graduated high school. He moved to Wyoming and joined the rodeo. He was stabbed. He was beaten up. He was almost killed more than once. He worked around the western half of the country. And at age 30, he woke up facing the wrong way on the interstate after a night of drinking. No idea when he started drinking. No idea when he got in his car. No idea how he didn't crash. He was just in the ditch facing the wrong way and thought, I'm going to die if I don't do something about this. Cleaned himself up. He created a life worth living, started doing ministry that was focused on that one thing. Christianity is not about religion. It's about creating a community of love. So after sitting down with Frank for a lot of interviews and typing out thousands and thousands of words of notes, I am now in the process of that prepping phase. I'm creating the goal and the structure and the outline, the idea of the book. When Frank first came to me, he wanted a memoir. He said, I want something that'll tell the highlights of my story, build up to where we're at now, something I can leave for my kids and grandkids, maybe a handful of people that I love that can remember me after I'm gone. And so after our interviews, all my gentle prompting and guidance, Frank has realized that his story is less and less about himself, and it's more about the people and the other people that he has come into contact with and the people he's working with today. It's not first I lived here and then I lived there and I had this job, then I had that job, and creating this timeline, which are essentially really, really boring. Most people don't want to read a timeline of your life. So as our interviews went along, Frank started to actually see the idea behind his own book. He didn't have any clue what this was going to be when he started going into it. Now where he's actually seeing the big picture. And it's really fun to work with people like this because you can see the lights go on in their head that they know the story, but they don't know why the story or how it's going to be told. So as he figured out his own story, we figured out drunken bar fights aren't the focus. They're the idea of I was here, but by the grace of God, I'm no longer there. And through his community of love, he actually has a nonprofit called Community of Love. He gets to meet hundreds of people a year. And these people are saying, Frank, I'm still there. How do I get out? So now this book isn't about Frank's life as a violent and angry young man in Chicago. It's not about working odd jobs or being in the rodeo or drinking till he was almost dead. It's not about running the most successful insurance agency in northwestern Wyoming. It's not about mentoring prison inmates, being the chaplain of an amateur basketball league, or anything like that. The book is about the fact that the audience deserves God's love, they deserve love from other people, and they deserve to be free from the addiction that's holding them back. So I'm still structuring this book. It started out as a series of stories of events that Frank lived. And now I got taking those heavy hitting stories, pairing them up with the solid concepts, leading the audience to the decision that they actually have worth. Because right now, they don't believe they have any value to society. We are saying they do. Now it's about finding the greatest stories, the heaviest hitters, emphasizing those so you keep the pages turning. You want to see what happened next. You want to see why Frank almost died in a bar fight. But then touching on the less heavy hitters that have good backgrounds and supporting roles. So think of it like a blockbuster movie. You have your main character and you have all your supporting characters. And then you have a conflict that happens and it builds up, ultimately the climax, and then you have the resolution. Frank's story is, it started out that Frank was the main character. There was no conflict. It was a series of stories that culminated in, and that's what happened.